Today's telegram is about courage. I was on a flake on the side of a mountain, right there in Yosemite Valley in California. I was climbing an epic climb. Everything was pristine, the weather was pristine, my gear was pristine, everything was ready to go, and all of a sudden my foot that was attached to a great foothold there on the rock face slipped, and I free fell for 12 feet. Now, people have said that when you're about to die, your life flashes before your eyes, and then you see everything that happened to you in your life. Well, that's never happened to me, because as I was free falling for 12 feet, I thought for sure I was dead. But nothing happened, no flashing, no nothing. So obviously, probably my life wasn't really exciting that it had to flash before my eyes. When I finally stopped falling, I remember I can hear the sound of my friends saying, "Howard, are you okay?" And I remember thinking in my mind, how could I have fallen? Everything was going fantastic. Everything was pristine. My gear was on check. And yet I fell. I remember when I finished that day and I was just reminiscing about the night, I remember that God taught me something. What do you do when everything is going fantastically well in your spiritual life? You've had a good week, you've had a good month, you've had a good year, you've been doing everything right for God, and all of a sudden you fall. Maybe you do something you shouldn't have done. Maybe you act some way that you shouldn't have acted. Maybe you say things that hurt people and you really didn't mean to. What do you do when situations happen like that? This is where courage kicks in. This is where you have to keep climbing. Because I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, once I fell for 12 feet and finally my protection of the rock, or my climbing protection finally caught me, I was terrified. The hardest thing I had to do once I fell was to get back up on that rock face and finish my climb. That was the hardest thing I had to do. And I have to be honest with you, in the Christian journey, it's the same thing. When everything seems to be pristine, when everything seems to be okay, and you take a fall, the hardest thing is to get back up and to keep going. The Apostle Paul says something very powerful in his book as he wrote it to the Philippians. He says, "I'm not saying that I have it all together, that I have made it, but I am well on my way reaching out for Christ, who has so wondrously reached out for me." Friends, don't get me wrong. By no means do I count myself an expert in all this. But I got my eye on the goal, where God is beckoning us onward to Jesus. I'm off running, and I'm not turning back. For Paul, he understood what courage was. Courage was getting back up once you have fallen and finishing the race. In my case, it was finishing the climb. What is it for you today? Someone once said that courage is fear that has said its prayers. So the reality is, right now, you may be feeling that you made a blunder. You made a mistake. Everything was going good, and then you took a fall spiritually. You feel horrible. You feel like you can't go on. You feel like you can't pray. You feel like you can't open the Bible anymore. You feel like you can't even share the Word of God or even hope to somebody else because you ruined everything else with a decision, with something you've done, with something you've said. But according to Paul, he says very clearly, he says, "I'm off running and I'm not looking back." Courage. Finish your climb today. Finish your journey today. If you have to apologize to whoever you have to apologize, then do it. If you have to say a word of hope to someone, then do it. If you have to talk to God right now and say, "God, I really made a blunder of my life," then do it. The hardest thing to do in life is, once you've fallen, to get back up and to finish your journey, to finish your race, to finish your climb. Until the next time, this is Pastor Tello of Telegram reminding you that thoughts do change lives.